Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. I'm in a weird mood today. I feel like I'm in a weird headspace, but I feel like that's the perfect time to talk about this movie. This movie deals with like a lot of mental health issues, and when I say this movie cured my depression, I don't actually mean it, okay? It's a bit of an exaggeration. By the way, we're talking about Thunderbolts Asterisk. I seen this movie last weekend and I've been sitting with it for a little bit, and also I haven't had time to really film a video, but that's okay because I think it's important to take some time and think about a movie before I make a review or reaction or whatever the fuck I do. This is about to get really heavy, by the way, because this movie, again, like I said, deals with like a lot of mental health. Now, I'm not a psychologist, but I do struggle with my own mental health issues. Primarily, I struggle with anxiety as well as depression. Now, I feel like my depression is not as bad as some people's. However, it is very much so in line with like what is depicted in the movie. So that's why I think it's like, actually, spoiler alert, it's a pretty damn good movie in my opinion. It's not like perfect, don't get me wrong. The advertisements saying like it's the greatest since Endgame, that's highly debatable. I mean, yes, Marvel has been having some stinkers, don't get me wrong. But like, did we all forget about Guardians of the Galaxy 3? Which I will say, like, I think this is not quite on par with Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but it is at a disadvantage because that is the third movie in a franchise with characters that we've been spending a lot of time with and we all really like. This movie, Thunderbolts Asterisk, takes a bunch of characters that a lot of people don't even remember, a lot of people don't even know, or a lot of people don't care about, and puts them together in a team, and it's like you're supposed to care about these characters, and that can be hard to do. I will say, this movie was at an unfair disadvantage compared to something like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But it also kind of has an opportunity to blow our expectations out of the water. Basically, you're setting it up for failure, right? Because who's going to go into this movie thinking, oh yeah, I really, really, really wanted to see John Walker again. Or I really, really liked Ghost from that one Ant-Man movie. Which one? I'll fucking remember. A lot of these characters you're not going into with an attachment, but that does leave the door open for opportunity to create an attachment with those characters. And I think they do a great job, especially with our lead. Yeah, I think it's fair to say Yelena's the lead. She's a character who is not only like personable, like she has a really fun, spunky personality, but she also is played by Florence Pugh. I really like Florence Pugh as an actress. I think she's really great. So having her as the lead, really great choice. Again, the character herself, Yelena, is easy to attach to. She's not like forced. I don't feel like sometimes like the comedy especially can feel forced in Marvel movies. She doesn't feel forced. It feels more like her personality. I never watched the Black Widow movie. I did watch Hawkeye. That's the only reason why I'm familiar with her personality. I did not like Hawkeye, the TV series, but I think she was sort of like a shining light in like the 1 or 2 episodes she was in, or her cameo appearance, whatever you want to call it. Plus you give her a struggle, right? She is the one who is struggling with depression, not feeling fulfilled in life.
So full, so filled.
And struggling to find a purpose. I think that is something that a lot of people can relate to, especially in today's times. You kind of feel like you're drifting. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind? Yes, I relate really deeply to her loss of purpose and seeking to find identity and things like that. Depression, you know, that's a motherfucker to deal with, especially for me. I don't know if anybody else. It's like I know I'm depressed and it's like there's a part of me that's like fighting with myself where it's like, stop being, there's no reason for this. There's no reason for you to be depressed. You're a privileged little girl, like let's pick yourself up by your bootstraps and let's get going. But then the depression just weighs you down so much. So relatable. The other character I think that really is strong in this movie is obviously Bob. You want a character who's going to succeed in a movie and stand out, you name him Bob.
Who are you?
I'm Bob.
But he is also the antagonist. I wouldn't say he's really the villain of the story. I would say he's just like more of the antagonizing force. And what I think is really unique about his situation, I know the Sentry is like a character in the comic books, right? But this is taken from the perspective of somebody who is not into the comic books, who is vaguely up to date with Marvel media. I know more than I think the average person would just because I watch a lot of like breakdowns. I think it's refreshing to see a villain or antagonist in a Marvel movie that isn't just a one-dimensional villain, because we've been getting a lot of that lately, I think. And that's okay to a certain degree. I just need variety. You know, we're gonna have this many Marvel movies and this many superhero movies. I need some variety in my villains. And I think this movie does a great job of showcasing, I believe he has bipolar disorder, what I've been diagnosed with, which is anxiety and depression. I understand what it's like to have like two different forces fighting with each other, like that internal monologue. I think they depicted that perfectly with his character. They don't really diagnose him in the movie itself, but the character he's based off of, I believe, has bipolar disorder, which is why you have the Sentry as being the hero, and then you have the Void as being the villain, and you have these two extreme personalities coming out. They showcase having that like mental struggle. Sometimes that inner voice does kind of drag you down, and there is a certain like loneliness that comes with it, of like, you will never be good enough. Not only that, but it was strong visuals. There was strong messaging, strong visuals, watching him beat up the Void, and like Bucky realizing that that's not right. And then the way that everybody came together at the end. Dealing with your struggles alone is not always a good thing. I know maybe some people, like, it's not the ending that they would have preferred because they prefer more like flashy, punchy type of endings, but I think this works for this movie, for what they've been trying to set up. And like I said, not every Marvel movie needs to end the same way. In fact, we love variety, okay? And I think this is a perfect way to handle it, because this is kind of what somebody who's struggling with mental health issues go through on a daily basis, of like fighting their own self. And sometimes that voice in your head is just your voice in your head, but it's so hard to combat, especially when you're in your own head. So having people on the outside, having people to lean on, having support, that's always like a beneficial thing. And it doesn't always solve everything. I think what I really liked at the end is like Bob is still, the post-credit scenes, he's still hanging out at the Avengers Tower. He hasn't completely figured out exactly how to deal with the Void entity. You know, he's trying, and he still has the support he needs, but he's still working through it. And it is a constant battle. It's not something that you can one and done. Once you defeat your demons, that's it. It's like, no, it's a constant struggle to overcome that. And sometimes it is very cyclical, in which like it repeats itself. It's not easily defeated when you're dealing with yourself. So I thought that was a really great ending, that they didn't quite end it on like, okay, well now the Void's done, we're never gonna see him again, like he's overcome his mental issues. Like, no, he still struggles, but he has that support system in place, which I thought was really nice. And with Bob too, I just want to touch on this too, his power set is just really cool. Like, he has a really cool power set. That was another thing that I was kind of like, all right, we're gonna explain it away as being like, he has all of that power just from like a super soldier serum. Like, what's going on there? I don't know exactly what he is in the comics. I don't believe he was created by a super soldier serum, so that's why it's different. But I kind of wish they would have just did something else. Like, maybe they were experimenting on him, but he also had some unlocked latent powers within his blood or something. I don't fucking know. Now, those are the two main characters. There's obviously, it's a whole fucking team, the Thunderbolts. Those two are the strongest. They also have like a really good connection with each other. They're able to relate to each other very well, and I think those two, they're the leads of the movie for a reason, and they do a great job of it. They have really good chemistry. I think the two actors do. The only other like downer about this movie is like some of the other characters do get overshadowed. There's a whole fucking team, obviously. I really enjoyed John Walker's character. Personally, I genuinely never understood why people hated him. I don't think as many people hated him in the real world as Marvel wanted. I think a lot of people like kind of understood like, oh, the writing behind the Falcon and the Winter Soldier isn't exactly the greatest, isn't exactly the strongest. So when they tried to turn John Walker into like this anti-hero slash villain, it didn't really make any sense. But I felt like the entire time he was being bullied by Sam and Bucky. Like, he really wasn't given a chance ever in that show. A lot of convenience of like, okay, the writers really want you to believe that this character is going to turn into an anti-hero slash villain, so we're going to have to make these other characters treat him really shittily, have this whole situation played out. And it's like, well, the situation isn't really fair, is it? So it's not really fair for the characters to hate on him as much as they do. And then his best friend is killed, and then of course he's gonna snap, and now I'm supposed to expect him to be a full-on villain? I don't know. So I'm kind of glad in this movie he got a little bit more depth to his character. I do like he is clinging to like the Captain America I don't know if he's like necessarily more likable. In this movie, you can see maybe why he should have been treated unfairly, like what kind of person he is. He is more of like a dick in this movie, but you do see like some underlying trauma there with like his family abandoning him, and maybe like what it's like to fail and live in the shadow of somebody like Steve Rogers or Captain America, given that position and then having it taken away from you. And I do kind of, it's kind of mean, but like he is kind of like the punching bag. Like a lot of the other characters kind of like make fun of him a little bit, but I think it works for him. And I do like that he is more brutal. This is going to be controversial to say, but I kind of like him as Captain America. I have a whole thing about the Captain America position. Like, I don't think that should ever have been a position up for grabs. I think everybody should just be their own damn character. I know it's in the comic books, but I think in the real world, that is just so complicated. I feel bad for Sam Wilson because I feel like he's better as the Falcon. And if they really wanted him to be Captain America, they could have written his character better. Like, they're trying to really push him on you to be Captain America, but I'm like, the writer's already fucked up and I'm just, it's not clicking with me. And now I'm just kind of tired of the idea of Captain America. So that's why I think I like John Walker better as Captain America, because I feel like he is a different interpretation of it. He brings more of a brutality to it that I kind of, it's different. Some other characters, we got the Red Guardian. On his own, he's not quite as strong, but he had some really, really good scenes with Yelena. There was one scene that got me where I started tearing up, which was between him and Yelena towards the end, where she just talks about feeling like a failure and he is just giving her this fatherly advice. Those two together brought a lot of heart to this movie. I thought that was great. His comedy, he's very loud, is what I'm gonna say about that. Yeah! And sometimes loud comedy does not always translate for me. He's just kind of like a washed up has-been. We could have built up his character a little bit more too, like with his trauma. Like we know his backstory, but I would have liked to see maybe whenever we're going through the different rooms in the void, all the other characters, I think we should have seen at least one scene for them, right? Like Ghost, I think is probably the least developed character throughout this. And honestly, if you take her out, I'm sorry, girl, but like you don't contribute much to the movie. Personality wise, she's also kind of quippy with Yelena. I do think like together as a unit, they all are really strong together. But if you like take out individual characters, I think she is one of the weakest ones because we don't get any sort of like development from her. We know that she was, from a very young age as a child, she was an experiment. She has her own phasing issues. I can't remember from the Ant-Man movie. I do not remember, okay? I know she was technically the villain of Ant-Man 2, but again, it's like one of those situations where like, is she though? Because like her life kind of sucked ass. I think she could have done with some more development. Like, and it's kind of wrong to say like, I need to see everybody's trauma, but like, you know, something to give her more depth into like why she's still sticking around with these random group of people, or why she's being pushed to do what she wants to do within this movie. So I wish we could have gotten a little bit more. Again, another scene in the void going through a room. I think that was a missed opportunity. Bucky, I feel like he's just kind of cool. He's like this cool guy that's there. He's the one character I think most people go into this movie knowing and liking. That's the character that you're gonna cling to because you know his backstory, you know what he's been through. You've already seen relationships play out with him. You've already seen his trauma. You already know what he's been through. So I don't think we needed like a scene for him necessarily. And he does have a really funny line with him saying like, my past was like totally fine, so I had no problem getting through these rooms.
I have a great past, so I'm totally fine.
That was really funny. He kind of feels like the big brother of it, like just watching like all of his siblings like, you know, do the shit. Like occasionally he'd be like, okay, we need to go this way. Like he'll redirect them. He is actually kind of a strong player, actually, now that I think about it. I've completely forgot about his entire Congressman story arc because he did have that, which I feel like they kind of wrapped that up really quickly. So there's certain like story arcs where I'm like, okay, we kind of like breeze past that, but one of them was being his Congressman story arc. He was never like an Avenger, I guess, but he was BFFs with one of the leaders of the Avengers, so he knows the deal. So I think he's like a good guiding force for the team. Any other, do I even need to touch on Taskmaster? That was honestly the funniest thing I've ever seen. I kind of love that. I watched the Thunderbolts trailer and I was like, okay, this kind of looks good. So I kept up with some of the talk going around town with this movie before it even came out. And like the fact that everybody predicted based on the trailers alone that Taskmaster would be like the first ones to die, which not wrong, is hilarious. But the fact that Marvel tried to cover it up and put her like in posters, try to put her in like scenes further in the movie to try to like misdirect. But it's like, bitch, we all knew. We all identified the fact that Taskmaster is gonna die within like 2 seconds, and she did. I feel like that's Marvel admitting that they made a mistake with that character. So they're like, okay, we're just gonna kill her off real quick. And then, of course, I feel like she's our actual villain, or at least co-antagonist of the story, as Valentina. I do appreciate that they gave Valentina a little bit of backstory. I kind of found her character like a little cartoonish in a way. I didn't mind it, honestly. The only thing that like bugged me about her character, her thought process. Like, I'm like, girl, did you not like really think this through? I know a lot of things was like, it was contingencies, right? I need to get rid of this evidence. Whoops, some of this evidence actually might work in my favor, but we already got rid of all the other stuff, so we need to quickly correct course. And like, there was like a short timeline, and I get it, mistakes can happen during that short timeline. And the fact that she needed the Sentry Project to work, and that all she had was Bob. So, you know, she took a risk, didn't exactly work. But there was some like, I'm like, you're a CIA director hiring the whole fucking Thunderbolts team to kill each other. Did you not think that maybe they wouldn't, and that they would maybe like come together and talk about some things? Like, I thought that was kind of dumb of her. As a CIA director, you would think that she'd be a little bit more smarter. Like, I wouldn't mind if like her character was like a CEO of a company. If she was just the CEO of the company who was running the experiments. That would make sense, because that is very CEO behavior, that sort of like cartoonish villainy. Again, I don't know her character too much. I know she's been in other movies and other properties, so maybe they built her up to be this way. But there was just like some thought process during the movie that I'm like thinking, oh, she's kind of dumb, isn't she? But I think a lot of that also has to do with like, we need to get from point A to point B in the plot, so a lot of convenience happens, which makes her look like kind of an idiot sometimes. But that's just how I felt during the time of the movie. I really, really enjoy the way that they're marketing this movie. It's kind of meta towards the end. And that was like a plot convenience too. It's like, how did Valentina have time to get all the press together after the Void to see them all together work as it, whatever. But like, once they get all together and she announces them as the new Avengers, I really liked that. It was kind of like, huh? What's going on here? Like, because that's kind of like my original reaction to seeing or hearing them be branded as the new Avengers, is kind of like, and like, did she have that set up just in casesies? Because like, you would have to have that planned out at least a little bit. Like, you can't just come up, I don't know. I feel like that helps the real audience accepting that this team is the new Avengers. I keep saying Avengers, what the hell? The new Avengers. It helps us in the real world be like, okay, the movie's even saying the rest of the world is like, what the hell's going on here? And not exactly accepting of these government branded new Avengers. This is probably the best way Marvel could have done it, because can you imagine if they marketed this movie straight up as the new I keep saying Avengers, what the fuck? The new Avengers. I don't think it would have gone over very well. So having it labeled as Thunderbolts and then having the asterisk, they really played into that motherfucking asterisk. Now, I know their asses, I lucked out. I did not catch this because I did watch it a week later than its release date, and I know Marvel decided to switch the title of Thunderbolts asterisk to the new Avengers. Smart marketing idea, kind of dumb to have it so close to its release date. Like, you should have at least waited like a couple weeks, I think, for people to see this, because not everybody can see it opening weekend, because that does spoil the ending. I think going into it blind, not knowing that this group of the Thunderbolts asterisk is going to be the new Avengers, the new government chosen new Avengers, I feel like that's a great surprise. I did catch, it was so fucking funny. I got it naturally, which I do appreciate. It popped up on my feed with Sebastian Stan going around Hollywood and changing the posters. I thought that was hilarious. And it is really fun marketing. Like, they're having fun with it. I do like that. Like, that gives me a little bit of hope that Marvel is having fun with this one, because I feel like we haven't had that much commitment since Endgame, honestly. Like, even like Guardians, like, they really weren't doing what they're doing with this one. Like, the hijinks they're doing with this one is kind of crazy. Having this team be the new Avengers and Bob, it does give me a little bit of hope for the future, which is something that I think a lot of fans have needed. This movie definitely rejuvenates that hope in this franchise, and it's with characters now that I feel connected to. I really like Yelena's character. I really like Bob's character. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with him and the Void. So I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with those characters going forward, and the fact that they're forming the new Avengers. And I love that the post-credit scene is important. Not only does it set up the next movie that's coming out, you know, with the Fantastic Four. I was only ever excited for Pedro Pascal, okay? But now I'm even more excited, but it also sets up this tension between Sam Wilson, his version of Avengers, and the new Avengers. That tension is going to be very interesting to see in the future. I think it's a really fun movie, very enjoyable. I think it has really strong messaging. Obviously there is some problems. Some characters aren't quite as developed as I wish they would have been. There is a lot of plot conveniences, but it's a fun time for the things that are fun. And then it is a very emotionally charged movie for the times where it's very heavy with its themes around mental health. I do appreciate Marvel tackling that issue. Not only do they tackle it, but they handle it with accuracy, which is great, because it's not always the case. I think Marvel did a pretty good job with this one, and I'm glad that they even realized that, hey, maybe this one's actually kind of a banger and that we need to market it, put our full marketing effort into it, and they're having fun with it, which you can definitely tell. So if you enjoyed, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I don't really care what you do, but that's gonna be it for today's video on my thoughts on all of it. So I will see you guys on the next one. I'm working on an Andor video. Fucking great season, by the way. One of the best television. Disney, I have like a weird relationship with Disney. Anybody else feel that? They can treat me so horribly and give me such slop, and I can hate them for it, and they can charge me so many absurd prices for things, but I still keep coming back for more. Like every once in a while they'll drop something so good and I'm like, God damn it, Disney, I'm supposed to hate you. But that is gonna be it. Goodbye. Have a nice life.